Great. Let's wait. Let's wait one more minute for people coming. Students to join. Hey, good evening. Good evening. Shalom. Yep. So, good evening. Let's wait. People join. Okay. How many of you, like, some of you might join the previous session, I guess. Did you? Also, is my mic working fine? Like, is everything fine from my end? Can confirm? Anyone? Is everything working fine? Okay. Good. Good. Great. Okay, so today's session is about advanced JavaScript. So since we have learned the like basic things, we did some of the things like we added manipulated HTML using JavaScript, right? And we wrote some functions. We have like basic JavaScript, basic language जो बाकी languages में होता है वो we try to implement it onto the JavaScript thing, right? But what's different? What's like when we build a website, so there are things that might be happening in the backend. So why JavaScript is chosen for that, right? For web development, like why JavaScript is something that we consider. So we will look onto those topics and we will see. Okay. As you guys, as I have mentioned into the group, okay, these were the topics. So we will touch those topics and yeah. So I think let people join. Okay. Can we start? I guess. Okay, I think we can start. Cool. Okay. So is my screen visible? Everyone? Is it? Yeah. Okay. Fine. First thing, what we will consider doing is, we wrote functions, right? function function as this, let's say, func1, right? And it did something. Let's understand the behavior of JavaScript. So it is like one, right? Okay, it's one. Let's not consider function. Console log is again doing that for us. So let's just console log, understand what's happening. Okay. So we have four console log, right? What I'm trying to show you right here is what I'm trying to show you right here is like JavaScript is single threaded, like synchronously single threaded, right? So what it does mean? It does mean that it is having a single call stack. Okay. So what happens is first this console log will go, okay, into the call stack, and this will happen like this will do its job. After that, this console log will happen. So what is happening is the things are coming afterward, like one another, line by line, right? So first, whatever stuff is there, it is going to happen, and then after this one, right, it is like line by line. So let's say we have a function here, uh, function, mm, anything. Okay, and I call it here, right? Output, we already know what is the output, right? This is the output. Let it build. Okay. You see, 1, 2. So 1, 2 is for this, right? This is a function, but it is kind of stored into the memory. It is not calling it right away. The function is there, it is stored into the memory, but we are not calling it here, so that's fine. Console log, we called it here, so it prints. After that, what is next? Another this console. What is after this? So since we called this function, it goes back here, right? It goes back here and calls this. Since like जब तक ये finish नहीं होगा तब तक नीचे के lines will not work, right? This console log will not happen. So since this, until this ends, so function 2 will be called, so it goes here and it is being called. And when it is finishes, like whatever happens, like let's say there are millions of line here, there's a million of code lines here, so a lot of code. Okay, and there's a lot of code. So these will wait actually, right? These console log, like I'm just saying console log, but there can be some very intensive task here. So these console logs will wait until this function finishes, right? So do we ever need something, do we ever need some behavior such that this function is actually not really necessary? So what happens is these whatever comes after, let's say these console log 3 and 4 are important for us. Let's just assume 3 and 4 are important for us. So इसको finish होने से पहले we want to execute them, right? This can execute later, but we want these to finish because let's say it is taking 10 seconds. It is taking 10 seconds, but we don't have that time. We want the we uh, we we want these to execute also, right? That's where come the synchronous and asynchronous things comes into the picture, right? That's what we are going to learn. So first, let us understand how a call stack will look like in JavaScript. So we wrote the code for it, and let's understand what is happening right now. Since whatever the code is here, it is synchronous as of now. Okay, so let's see. One person has doubt like onto the previous class about the relative and the about the relative and absolute positioning. So what happens is absolute positioning क्या करती है कि let's say I create let me give an example. I'm just picking it for that. So we wrote it here, make it again, right? Just make another here there. Okay. So what is happening? The this particular header tag is taking its space. ये अपना space ले रहा है, and the second one is also taking space, right? So what if जैसे ये पूरा लेंथ ले रहा है, यहाँ का पूरा एरिया कवर कर लिया, राइट? देन ऑन टू द सेकेंड वन दिस इज टेकिंग स्पेस. बट व्हाट इफ लाइक सो अभी इनका बिहेवियर कैसा है, लाइक दे आर कोलाइडिंग विद ईच अदर. इसका एरिया स्पेस ये है एंड आफ्टर दैट दिस इज कमिंग, राइट? But what happened, like we want some kind of behavior ke these should not collide, right? You should understand like it in better way. Let me give 2 minutes so that the person in the previous class should understand it better, right? Let me create 2 days there so that hmm, let me give it a class of a give it a class of b. Let's just give it a start. We'll come to the JavaScript thing just really quick. Okay, so we give it a like ifs are having say like give it a width of 100 pixels, give it a height of 100 pixels, right? And background um, say blue. Okay, let's let it compile. But it is not showing here. Why is that? Okay, this is not okay. It is showing here, right? Okay. Let's see here. So we have two divs here, right? So it is not having a gap or something. So we can have a border. Let's say, so put a border so that you can see. So 2 pixel solid border, solid black border. Okay, let's see. So you see, let it compile. You see this here. So since I was trying to explain, okay, this div is taking its space, right? Ye wala space it has taken. Also, this is coming afterwards. So what behavior it is having right now? Okay, these are taking its own space and they are colliding, right? But what if I want this to be free on the screen? Let's say this, ये जो second वाला जो, let me give it a another color. Do that using, you understand? Give it a right. Okay. You see, so A is having like this particular is having like, this is the default behavior, right? The divs are coming afterwards, and it is taking its own space, it is taking its own space, and whatever comes after it, like text or whatever, these are going to be like, agar inline elements hain, so they will be like having onto the line, or agar normal tags hain, they will take the all over the space. But what happened, we don't want this behavior, we just what we want is like, we don't want this particular div to not collide with. इसका example, simple example can be like navbars. So navbar क्या होता है, it is stick to the window, right? It is there. So let's say this simple, yeah. So you, let's just see it here. As you can see, so a simple example could be a nav bar, right? Nav bar क्या होता है? It is just stick there, or it is like कुछ भी content आ रहा है, it is not going to collide with any other elements, right? Or बाकी we can surf it as easily as we want, right? There can be multiple buttons there. से कोई ऐप होता है, तो there are buttons onto the footer, so they are stick there, right? So if we want that behavior, what we can do is like, we can style that particular tag as absolute, right? Write it right here. We have the class, let's try to write it into this class here. It is not having that behavior. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying it in B. Sorry about that. Let it compile. I'm giving it related. Okay. Not working right now. अच्छा अच्छा, तो तुम एक काम करो बेटे, तुम दोनों खा लेना। Why? In fact, we'll do one thing. We'll try to manipulate it using JavaScript and then. Okay. Thing is, yeah. We'll try that using JavaScript, and then let's come to the, so pretty much what we try to show is that uh, absolute eliminates the colliding behavior, and just gives you the like total space. and using the left and right thing we can just using left, right, top, bottom, we can just uh, fit that particular element to the window, right? uh, I don't know why is that behavior was not working, but let's just focus on all stacking since we were here, right? Okay, so since as of now there is no asynchronous calls here, so let's understand this. This is synchronous, right? Also, is it visible? Like, right, make it here. Let's say this is a call stack. Okay. Cool. JavaScript has this only single thing. JavaScript has this only single thing, that is whatever execution is going to happen is only within this call stack, right? So this is going to execute it line by line. So what happens is the very first console log happens, right? ये तो function है, so it is stored into the memory. It is not calling it right away. Console log happens. So what happens? Console log. So this console log goes into this one. So let's call it one, right? Uh, One. Okay. It goes here. After that, it finishes and it comes out of the it it finishes. Okay, and then comes what? तो since ये console log के अंदर कोई function नहीं है, right? So there's nothing to like call again. So it is not like कि function के अंदर एक another function है. So uh, console log will have some other things, right? These are independent. These are independent functions. Console log is a single function. Like this is a single one. So it goes into the call stack. It print the console log. So let's say this is a log, right? Right, so this one log happened. After that this comes out of the call stack, right? So let's erase this. uh, okay. Let me, okay. Then this one comes, so this particular one gets popped out and this is being forced, right? Now 2 is into the call stack and this log is having 2. Now 2 के अंदर भी कुछ नहीं है, right? So this is like 2 also comes out of the call stack. Now what happens is function 2 is being called. So this is going to be replaced. This is going to be replaced with it's pretty bad eraser here. Yeah. So what is going to happen? Function 2 is being called. This func 2 here. Great. I'm right. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. 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 I'm not really familiar with this tool actually. Func2 is there. Now what happens? It is not single. There is also another function inside it, right? So console log is also there. So it is going to push log also here. That is log, right? Log of what? Func2, right? That is there. Now does func log also have some other functions or some other things right away? So we don't have it right now, right? Right. So what happens is this is going to print it. Func2 is going to print. So this log happens here, right? So okay. Func2 is going to be printed on the log. Now since there is nothing, so this is going to be popped out. So this comes out onto the call stack. Now does func2 also have some other things afterwards? No, it doesn't. So this also comes out to the call stack. Okay. Now call stack is being cleared. Now जब ये एग्जीक्यूशन खत्म हो गया, now comes, जब तक एक पर्टिकुलर कोड एग्जीक्यूट खत्म नहीं होता तब तक some other will not come, right? So since it is being cleared out, now comes this log. So this will go here, and this is going to print 3 here, right? So this is going to print 3 here and also 4 here, right? That's how synchronously everything worked, right? Cool. But what if I want कि this func clock is sure, like func clock is something that is okay, 1 2 3 4 should be printed, and this func clock happens somewhere afterward. Okay, this is not very important for the user. User के लिए ये इतना important नहीं है, right? This is not really important for the user. It is like agar if it, so these are really important for the user, so let it happen first, right? So that's where we can make it asynchronous behavior. Asynchronous behavior क्या करता है? जब जो call stack है, it is going to push these things first, right? And whatever the asynchronous code we wrote, that is going to another task queue, right? So we have this here. This was call stack, right? This was call stack, but we also have another thing that is task queue. Let's just call it task queue, or call it a callback queue, right? Let's just call it. Okay. So since the previous code that we saw, it was working onto the only the call stack, but what if we want this particular function to go into, like हमारे स्क्रिप्ट के अंदर वी वांट इट समवेयर आफ्टरवर्ड्स टू रन, राइट, नॉट जस्ट राइट अवे, सी. सो दैट वुड गो ऑन टू द टास्क क्यू. सो सिंस कॉल स्टैक के सारे जब मेमोरी लाइक सारे फंक्शन एग्जीक्यूट हो जाएंगे, देन दिस टास्क क्यू विल हैपन, एंड लेट्स सी pretty good example of that. So it is going to take a function here, and it is going to take a timer. You guys may know set timeout and set interval. If not, let me know in the comments. I'll explain that. These are the web APIs. Let's see if we made any mistake. Okay. So 1 2 3 4 is being printed. Like, let's see if there are any issues. Okay. Let's wait for 5 seconds. Right. So what happened? Okay, we had this behavior, right? Okay, these were like the important function for us. So let's say important, right? This one also important. These are important, right? This particular one was like was kind of stored into the memory. Yeah. So these were important, and this was like stored into the stored it somewhere. Okay, call it afterwards, right? So what happened? These 1 2 3 4 were logged, and after 5 seconds, this one set timer was logged. Okay. What if I make this timer? So how do anyone knows about like how set timer works? So it's just simple function that like let's call it here like this, and it takes a function as a parameter first and the delay, right? Function and delay, right? So whatever the delay you are given is going to after this delay gets over, this function executes, right? And there's a catch. We also the function that we passed on is actually a callback function, right? What if I put the timer 0? So let's say I put the timer 0. What will happen? Like what is going to be printed in the call stack? Let's just remove it here. Yep. Let Tell me into the comments what is going to happen. If the timer is 0, what is going to be printed? Yep, right. Delays in milliseconds. But using what is going to be printed into the logs? Tell me into the comments, anyone. Just write the sequence, what is going to be the printed. Print set time. Anyone? Even if you have like wrong answers, it doesn't really matter. We are going to see it afterwards. So let's just put in. Guys, be interactive. 1 2 set timer 3 4. Okay. Anyone other guesses? Anyone? Guys, anyone? Okay. Okay, let's see. 1 2 3 4 and set timeout. Why did this happen? 1 2 3 4 and set timeout. Since we wrote this console log 1 2 and set timeout, and it was milliseconds of zero, and so it is having milliseconds of zero. It does mean like nothing. Just run it right away. That's what we are trying to say, right? The delay is zero, definitely. Like 0 milliseconds is what? Instant, right? 0 milliseconds is instant, so call it right away. And then happen this console log 3 and then console log 4. So one after 1 2, this should have been like called right away. But what happened is this was actually a callback. This function was actually a callback. And whatever functions that are callback are that are going to be into the that are actually stored and goes into the task queue, right? They like वो normal functions की तरह बात नहीं करते, they have to go through the task queue, right? So even if it was instant, right? So even if let me show it here. So even if it was instant, so one was locked, right? And two was locked, right? That happened. But set timeout is is a callback, right? So what happened, even if the delay was zero, but it went to the task queue because it is a callback function. This function is a callback, right? So it had to go through this. So let me say like we call that functions. So it went to here into the task queue, right? So it went here. So now set timeout is here. So let's call it st. Even if it was quick, like it was instant, but it has to go through that particular task queue, and then afterwards it came here. And generally what happens is, जब तक task queue खाली नहीं होगा तब तक these will not go over there, right? So afterwards, like this was being stored, we have other things. So this was stored and the task queue खाली नहीं हुआ because we have some other lines. Let's say we have some other 10 million lines, right? Since अगर जब तक ये lines खत्म नहीं होंगे तब तक this is not going to work, even if the timer was instant. So that's the thing. It has to go through the task queue, right? It is not really important for us. Like it is not really important even if the timer is instant. These needs to execute it. So these all will be going through the task queue, and after जब call stack खाली हो जाएगा, then it is going to be post, right? Then it is going to be pushed. So 1 2 happened, it here it got stored. Now 3 4, like 3 4 happened, right? It is not a it is not it is not task queue. It's like it popped out after being printed. Now what happened? 3 goes there, right? uh my bad. 3 goes there and it was popped out. There's nothing more in it. 4 was there, so let's say 4 was being printed, right? And it comes after. Now the call stack is empty, and also these 10 million lines have been executed, right? Now this the function that was we wrote here, अब इसके पास टाइम है, like task queue is cleared, so it searches event loop searches for this particular task queue. Does it have something? Like it task queue does have something, or if it does have, it puts onto the call stack. So we have set time out this particular function here. So we can also like name this function. That's better function callback. Like name this function, right? That's better, right? So we will write here callback. that went here, right? So that function went here, and after that, since call stack was cleared, it came from here, and callback goes into the here. It ran what console log happened. So set timeout was being printed, and it pops out. So you understand the sequence. What if we use time interval, set time interval? Yeah, like these are. So let me tell you, this set timeout or set interval takes the callback. That is the beauty of callbacks. Callbacks are not callbacks. वहीं पर call नहीं होता actually. Callbacks are callbacks have this behavior that callback has this behavior that they are being like stored onto the task queue, and then afterwards when everything runs out, like call stack is being empty, then they are being called. So even if the timer was instant, they had to go this through this callback. So same thing happens with the set interval, uh, right? It takes a callback function, and it takes a delay, right. So this timer is being going to so there's also this timer thing, right, into the web APIs. Let's call it timer. So it is going to ping that. Let's call it timer, right. So क्या होगा, let's say I make it 5 seconds delay, right. We are not writing proper code here, but let's just understand the timer is 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, this particular function, that is this callback function, is going to be pushed here every 5 seconds. So timer has set interval क्या करता है? It's have this functionality of like after that delay of five, like whatever the delay we have given, it runs that function that it has been being passed, right. So after every 5 seconds, it is going to push that here. We will check for the call stack is empty. Then this callback is here, right. This callback is here. So this this callback is being going to be here, and this going to call stack, right. Now every 5 seconds it's going to happen. This comes like the timer runs out, it goes here. Every timer runs out, it goes here, right. That's also the same thing, but with callbacks it had to go through this task queue, right. But there is another thing other than the task queue. So let me clear something. Okay, cool. Yep. Okay. Cool. This is a task queue. Let me make a micro task queue, and let me tell you what is that. Okay, you see this, everyone? Like, okay, tell me. So, अभी तक जितना समझ I explained so far. So since previously we wrote synchronous code, right? ये ये वाला जो code था, this particular func2 वाला, this that's where we were calling this func2. This was synchronous code, right? इतना समझ में आया? After that, we wrote some asynchronous code. Asynchronous code means like JavaScript is not asynchronous, but using these different call stacks, it gives it a kind of behavior of asynchronous. So it is not blocking the main thread. As I said, कि जो function हमने यहाँ पे call करा set timeout, it is not interfering. Even if it is going to run somewhere, it is going to execute these coming after lines, whatever the code we wrote here, right? So it is not blocking the main thread. It is going to run as we want, right? So that behavior is kind of asynchronous, but JavaScript is not really asynchronous, it is synchronous, but it gets us the behavior by using these stacks. So call stack is there. So whatever the asynchronous code we write, it comes onto this task queues, this different task queue or micro task queue. Now unless let's just okay. So anyone understood it so far? Like we had a set timeout here. Let me write like async code here. There was async code here. Okay. So we saw two type of codes, synchronous and asynchronous, right? So anyone understood it so far? Give it a plus one to the chat if you understood it so far. That callbacks are being posted into the task queue, and after that they goes here, right? It comes here, callbacks comes here, and it goes here. So callbacks are nothing but the functions that are being passed as a parameter. So if I call it a function, like make a function, let's say I name it normal, and I take a argument function, and I call this as a callback. Like I'll put a logic somewhere, but let's say, so in this normal, I am going to pass a function here, right? Let's just name it a call. Let's just name it callback, right? Right. Let's just try to call this. Let's see. Callback. Okay. Right. Something. Okay. It should be function callback. We called it here. It was the function. No, that's not a problem. Right. Let's see. Call this normal function. We have this callback here, and this is being passed. This normal is being called. Okay. Okay. Function. Okay. Maybe having some errors. We look at after this, but the important thing is let's just say this is some asynchronous code here. Let's focus on that first. We we look onto that error first. Okay. So I was trying to explain the async code, right? But async code can be written as callback. So callback is nothing but, let's say, callback is nothing but the like a function, that is function this parameter, it will be called uh, somewhere afterwards, uh, like onto our logic, right? Like whatever the logic we have given, it is not going to interfere onto our main thread. So that is like the call stack. So that is not going to interfere onto our main call stack. It is going to be here, and whenever we need this, it is going to be called. So let's just make a button here, and let's just target this button. So so this document object has like has everything. So let's just id, right? I told you about this DOM manipulation thing in the previous lecture, right? That's easy. Let's give it a class. Right? Okay. Let's just add event listener. So it is going to take argument of what is going to be the event. So simple event for now and a function. Cool. Let's see. Okay, did we make some mistake? Okay, it's not ID class. Class. We can give it ID to make it more simple for us. Okay, uh, let's hope here. Let's get going. Right. So what happens is this click me like, so this function you see, this function you see is actually a callback, right? This is being attached as an event. So where it is it right now? यहाँ पर कहाँ पर कॉल स्टैक में है या टास्क क्यू में है माइक्रो टास्क क्यू? बिकॉज दिस इज नॉट बीइंग प्रिंटेड राइट नाउ, बट एज आई सून click on it, it is going to do that. So tell me, where is it? Like, onto the call stack, task queue, micro task queue. Let's just understand that. That is into the web APIs part. It is being right. That is into the web API. That is onto the browser. So that particular this particular function is being, because यूजर कभी भी यूजर कभी भी इस बटन पर क्लिक कर सकता है. सो ऐसा नहीं कर सकते कि उसको कॉल स्टैक पे रखें, राइट? और फिर एक बार वो चल गया तो देन वी डोंट हैव एक्सेस टू इट, राइट? एंड वी कैन नॉट रियली पुट इट हियर बिकॉज वी डोंट नो यूजर यूजर कब क्लिक करेगा उस पर, राइट? हमें नहीं पता, क्योंकि यहाँ पर जो टास्क होंगे दैट इज लाइक queued afterwards. So we don't know when user going to click that button. So that is going into the web APIs part. So it is so what we name, like, let's say we name a function, we name our function callback, not callback, button, right? So this button function is here. Now what happens? Since user clicks on it, I was clicked, right? So then it comes onto the task from the web page. It comes on to here, right? And then it goes to the call stack, right? So it is being stored, and whenever user is going to click on it, then only it gets called, right? Now we were talking about so what things are going to be here? What things are going to be? Okay. So यहाँ पर तो सारे like function execute होते हैं, right? All the functions that are there, right? What happens here? Callbacks. Okay. Callback. These are the like stored functions that we like attach. So since what we did here, we इस particular HTML tag के साथ हमने this ये वाला जो function है, this callback function, we attach that function, so that went to the web APIs part, right? Micro task queue के साथ क्या होता है? The callbacks that are kind of promises. So let me write it here. Promises and some other stuff, right? Now, what is the difference between these? This task queue and micro task queue, right? What is the difference? These are kind of these works as the same thing, right? Both execute, but this one is having more priority. This one has more priority in the priority part. These micro task queue. So understand it this way. अगर यहाँ पर कोई function है, let's call it f1. Okay, great. Let's just call it 1, right? और यहाँ पर कोई function है, let's call it 2 into the task queue. So what will happen? Which one is going to be into the call stack? टास्क क्यू वाला पहले जाएगा या माइक्रो टास्क क्यू वाला पहले जाएगा? इनटू द कमेंट्स. Promises are again callbacks kind of, but they do have some functionality of like resolving and rejecting things, and they are also asynchronous, right? But they have more priority. That's the thing. Okay. So comment which is going to be onto the call stack. This two, like this function two onto the task queue, or the function one onto the micro task queue. Yeah, because like both function exist. अभी call stack खाली है, right? तो call stack खाली है, तो event loop is going to search for, okay, do we have some stuff into the task queue? But before searching here, it is going to search onto the micro task queue, because it does have more priority. So let's say this is a person, right? Hmm. Let's just say this is a person. So जब भी call stack खाली होगा, so this person has this duty to check, does we have any functions to execute here and these task queues. But it also gives more priority to this micro task queue, right? And since we have two functions right here, the function one onto the micro task queue and callback. So this function is going to do what? It is going to execute this one. So it takes this particular function and runs it here, right? Because this is having more priority. This is being done now. Does we have any other function onto the micro task queue? Don't. So this again, so it is having the priority null. So it is going to run these functions, right? Because this is empty now. Now what happens? This is going to be here. Function 2 called stack and runs after, right? So that is how we achieve the asynchronous behavior in JavaScript, right? And what, like, I gave you a simple understanding, that is like normal call stack. Normal call stack works. This this if we comment this out, okay, we comment this out. This is normal synchronous code. This is normal synchronous code, right? This is normal synchronous code. So the comes onto the task queue, runs afterwards, and then goes back. Okay, but into the async function, those goes into the task queues and micro task queues and runs afterwards. Also, there are specifications that is it a callback of promise or some other stuff. So then it checks for micro task queue and these. So you understand like how JavaScript has this asynchronous behavior using callbacks. Callbacks are really important, because let's say we, as the name suggests, callback. So if we want it somewhere afterwards to run, right? So let's say we have our website, right? So user is going to scroll on to the third or fourth page afterwards. वहां पर कोई images है ना? थर्ड या फोर्थ पेज पे कोई images हैं, images का data है. So that image data is not really important as onto the first page, right? यूजर वहां पर लेट जाएगा, राइट? सो जब हम डेटा वहां से पुल कर रहे हैं, जब हम डेटा वहां से पुल करवाना चाह रहे हैं, so we can what we can do, that we can make that particular code asynchronous, so that जो जो डेटा पहला वाला है, जो onto the first and second pages, that is going to be pulled first, and afterwards we can do whatever like that was a basic example. Afterwards we can pull that information, right? So that's where callbacks come in handy. And callbacks are nothing but these function passes parameter, as I said, right? And you can try it on your own. Okay, and that's how like JavaScript is again single threaded, but using these functionalities, it makes it asynchronous code, right? And also we had this thing as set timeout, right? This simple function here, like this. Right? And let's say there is a promise here. I'm going to write a code for promise, but let's just because it might be confusing for you. But let's say there is a promise here. Okay, let's say there is a function here. Function that is a function normal, and it is returning a promise. This right. There are other things into it, but let's say we call it here called func, and this is a promise and this is a timeout, and the delay is actually 0, right? What happens is these codes are going to be onto the call stack because these are synchronous, right? I'm going to put s onto this, right? Okay. And these are, this particular one is like async, right? Right. Understand it this way. Okay. Now, now we understand that these are going on to the call stack. So let's just run through this particular, and we understand what. Let me erase and let's just run through all of that. Okay, let's just remove all this. Right, this is important. Right. Okay. What is there? This is synchronous. Call console log one. This happens here. Right. One happened. Right. It was here. Right. Right. So it was here. Now there's nothing more in it. So it was popped out. Like it does, it works. Uh, it did work, and now comes two because it is also like the synchronous code is being executed line by line. So that is done, and now comes this. So two is done. Right. Cool. Now set timeout. This particular. So as I said, this is asynchronous. Goes on to the task queue. Okay, I erased this, right? Okay, this goes on to the, so let's say it was named callback. So since we do have a callback here, right? So let's just name it a callback. So this callback function is here. Now this is also a asynchronous code. Like these are also being executed line by line, right? So this promise is here. Let's say we name this promise, but let's say func one is here. So let me erase this and write func one here, right? Cool. And what happens afterwards? Console log 3 happens. So since this is synchronous, goes straight into the call stack, right? So it goes here, it goes here, it does its work, and it pops out. And again, we have console log 4. So that is again synchronous. It comes here and it pops out. Now, as I told you before, the person here is only going to search onto these like call stack, these ones only when the call stack is empty. So we do have the call stack empty right now. The synchronous code is being called, all of this code, right? Done. All of this synchronous code is being done, right? Now call stack is empty. It's empty, right? It's empty. Since it is empty, this person is going to look for. This person is going to look for this. Not really person. It's like event loop. Yeah. So This going to look for these call stacks. Does they have some functions to be executed? So we do have. What we have? We have this callback function here, and we have func1 here. Now tell me what is going to be executed first. This was synchronous code that was done afterwards, line by line, ran like normally onto the call stack. Now this asynchronous code was went go through like it went through all of this. Like it went through here, it went through here, right? So it goes here. Like let me just write async here. More sense. Make more sense. Yeah, async. Right, right. Cool. So what? So this person is going to look for. Do we have any functions to be executed? So func1, yeah. So we have func1 into the comments. Yep, func1 is going to be called because this one micro task queue has more priority than this task queue or callback queue, right? So this func1 goes to call this here, right? And whatever we wrote into the our promise, it's going to be ran here, right? And then this callback happens. Since this is empty, अगर यहाँ पर कुछ और भी होता, अगर यहाँ पर बाकी let's say func1 was there but there are more promises. So जब तक माइक्रो टास्क क्यू खत्म नहीं होगा तब तक ये रन होता रहेगा. इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू डू दैट के it ran first just one function and this person is going to look for into the task queue. Not that's not going to happen. This since this is going to emptied after only then, after only then this is like this is going on to the. So since we only had func1 and now it's time for callback to, like, so it is going to check if do we have some other things here. So yes, we do have a callback function. So so we do have callback function here, right? Yeah, we have callback. Now it's being executed and now okay, and it gets empty again. That's we done for, right? So that was a total execution, like how it worked, right? Like synchronous and asynchronous things. How do we get to know whether it's yeah. So you need to like understand यहाँ पर जो हम function लिखते हैं that is like normal function, right? Let's say I write a function. Also, if I specify it as a async function, so we understand that is a async function. But what about function that are like pre-built? Let's say patch in patch. So patch is like used to make network calls, right? You guys might know about APIs, right? So APIs is used to make network also getting data from server somewhere, right? So you need to understand which what kind of function is that? Is that returning a promise or it is just some asynchronous code or it's just some random like normal function that we right? So we need to look that we need to actually see that, right? Or we can make our own promises on our need, right? But the important part was that you should know how this execution is going to be done, right? Okay. Any more doubts about this? How this total call like memory stack, like how everything has happened? Any doubts about this? Callback promises, any of that, right? Guys, put your doubt into the chat. Put your doubt into the chat. We don't have a lecture on APIs actually, but that's not a big thing. APIs is just that just to make network calls. So we have some packages, simple like Axios or something. Anything can you use, but the basic thing is that API helps us to get the data from somewhere, and that data is being pulled by using some kind of URL or something, and that API can be of kind of REST API. So REST APIs are kind of like push post. So you see these forms in your website. So what happens, you fill the form and you just what you do is like fill the form and just submit. So what happens on that submit button is like you fill that form, so somewhere endpoint onto the API, that particular data is going to post it onto that DB. Now let's say you go onto your profile. So when you go into your profile, you see all of your name, your data and all. So that particular function made a API call onto basis of your profile name. So you have Instagram URL, right? Like username. So that is going to search onto the Instagram database that for get me the data about this particular URL, like username. So we specify that into the API, and we get the data, right? So fetch works like simple, specifying the URL and something, and then happens like then and catch thing, right? Used to interact with database. Yeah, you can say that to pull data or to push data, right? So API, let's say you have vegetables. You have let's say so why API are helpful, because uh, internet is full of data, right? There is a lot of data that is already present. So if you are making a website that shows images of jeans के images वो show करता है, there are a lot of images that are going to be books or jeans, let's say books, right? So if internet already have some data about genes image, like about books images, so why should you store images on your on your code base? Just make a API call. Just make a API call and pull that data from there. And those API, what those API do is giving the data. Like when we make a request, they are going to get us the data, right? It is like a shop or something. So at a shop you buy some groceries or something, so that groceries is also, so you come go to the vegetable shop, right? The vegetable shop does have some vegetables already, right? So या तो घर में उगा लो, या फिर vegetable shop से तुम you can buy those vegetables, right? Just make a call or something, like do a call, like we don't really call vegetable shop, but yeah, we are doing that. So we are taking our vegetables from there, or either we can do on our own, like growing our own vegetables, right? So that's where API helps us, like pulling the data, pushing the data, that stuff, right? But the most important part was understanding all this, how this callback and this callback promises, event loop, call stack, right? All this happen. So synchronous and asynchronous behavior, we try to dry run this code. This was a simple part, but there can be complex things to be executed. So guys, should did you understood, like we try to run it? Did you understood this so far, or was it? Did you know this already, or was it helpful? Right? Whatever stuff we saw here, give it a plus one to the chat if you like found this helpful. This and this is really helpful, because when you work with some packages, let's say the React and all, like not really like some with frameworks and all, so these things happen, right? React, he they have this hooks, right? Use effect and all these things. So you need to learn about the behavior of that, like how use effect, is it a promise, is it a callback, how is it, like is it asynchronous, is it synchronous? बिकॉज एग्जीक्यूशन का मेथड चेंज हो जाता है ना. जैसे सिंक्रोनस कोड हमने यहाँ पर लिखा, लाइक हमने कोड कैसे लिखा है यहाँ पर, कंसोल ऑफ 1 2, this should be printed, this should be happen, and this should be printed. But what happened, 1 2 3 4 happened, and function 1 and callback did, right? So why did it happen? Because of the synchronous and asynchronous code, right? So that we should have in our mind to understand about all that, right? And that was it, right? That was all to understand, right? So I think you learned something in this session, was it? Was it cool learning about all this, guys? The plus one if it was helpful, guys. Okay, great. Yeah, JavaScript is cool. Yeah, yep. Great. With that, so whatever stuff we saw, like callbacks, promises, you just go somewhere like Google some Google in, Google information about this, right? And uh, increase your knowledge about it. And if you do have some doubts, like why something is failing and why something is not working, you can just connect to me, right? And it would be great to resolve your doubts. Okay. Cool. With that, we can, I think, wrap this today's session, and that was that's going to help you make your website. But let's just see. Let me let me give you a small. So, are you going to stick? Okay. You guys might have seen an example on two websites. Okay, a ad appears, right? There's an ad that is going to be played for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and then something happens, right? Do a plus one onto the chat if that some kind of thing that you saw onto the website. There's an ad like it plays for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then let's say this download now button shows or something, right? Does that happen? And how did it happen? It didn't happen synchronously. Why? Because synchronous behavior is just call that thing right away. It doesn't wait for anything, right? And we can't have this behavior synchronously, right? That's why we need the asynchronous method. So we have to set timeout for 10 seconds, and we set that timeout for 10 seconds. After that, the 10 seconds like gets done, we show the download now button. So if you guys could stick here, so let me just, yeah, uh, I think you got the idea, right? Like just let's run a set timeout here, right? Or like this is a there's a function like what it's going to do is like show. I'm just writing some pseudocode. Show button, right? So this is going to happen after time is 10 seconds. So we can specify 1000 milliseconds there, right? So this simply does our work. How? This is going to wait for 10 seconds. Till then, what we can show here is this is an ad, right? Here we're writing pseudocode. This is a ad, right? Advertisement, right? So this is the advertisement, and now when this actually gets done, you can just reference. So let's say this is a button reference. I'm just, yeah, button reference, and you can definitely change it in HTML, right? In HTML, and change it to let's say a button, right? Okay, button of download now, or anything kind of stuff that you want to show, right? So what happened in the pseudocode? Uh, Earlier, this was like this is an advertisement was shown, but since 10 seconds happens, this is going to being called, and where this function is going to be here. ये function यहाँ पर है. And this is not a promise, so it is definitely going to be onto the task queue, right? This function is going to be here, and web API have the timer, right? We have the timer. Since timer wait for 10 seconds, जब 10 seconds खत्म हो जाएंगे, this is going to be pulled, or task queue empty है because we don't have any other things, right? So this task timer ends, and this particular function is being taken and goes onto the call stack. Now it goes onto the call stack. We have button reference, and we are showing, instead of this advertisement, we are showing download now button, right? So that was it. I hope you got the logic. We wrote the pseudo code. We didn't code it properly because the session is already long. Right? Not really long. Yeah. You got the idea, right? like sign in page in GLP it loads after some time. Yeah. What happens is synchronous code is that whatever the details they want to show in their page particularly, but user का जो authentication है that can take time, right? It is not कि पहले user का authentication ले लो then show the UI. The UI is more important. Show the UI, then look for asynchronously user authentication. Then they show the pop-up or something, login with Google or something, right? That's how we achieve that. So did you got like understood that this particular example, right? You might have seen in some of the websites, okay, there is some kind of advertisement and it waits for some time and then that particular thing happens, right? And you also understood like how it went like ran into the call stack, right? So was it helpful? You understood this? So like the very next time when you write JavaScript code, synchronous or asynchronous, just go through this. Just go through whatever this execution mode of execution is there, and you are going to like be good with it. You understand what is the flow of the code, right? Cool. Great, great. Okay. So did you learn something in this session? And was it helpful? Let me know into the chat. Give it a plus one if this was helpful, right? How was the session, guys? And with that, we can I think wrap up today's session. Was it helpful today's session? Anyone? Okay. Okay. So yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, great. So yeah, I thought you learned something. We could not wrap up everything, but yeah, we tried to learn something. There were some errors. There's a lot of things happens. That comes with practice, right? But that was it about the today's session. But since that this is the last session about JavaScript, so what we have covered so far is like some basic JavaScript, right? Like we covered HTML, we understood about the tags. Like there are tags, normal HTML tags. We saw some CSS, how we can manipulate the CSS, right? We also saw the specificity thing in CSS. By some property is colliding with some other property, right? By some property is not showing before, like even if we wrote the code for it, because of the specificity of that particular property in the CSS, right? That was that. Again, what we learned after that, we came onto the JavaScript. We saw some normal JavaScript, uh, that is like storing something into the variables, making function logs and all. After that, we try to manipulate the UI like HTML using JavaScript. So we like made a small, very tiny project, basic project onto the yesterday's stream. We try to manipulate the UI using JavaScript. We also try to style the HTML using JavaScript. If you remember, we also styled that particular header tag onto the yesterday's stream if you was there. After that, in today's session, what we have covered so far was the advanced topics that were callbacks. So you saw the callbacks that are like don't really execute right away. They are being stored and they are goes through these task queues and micro task queues, right? We saw promises. So promises are also kind of callbacks, but they have some more priorities and all that stuff, right? And we saw whole event loop, how overall execution is working, right? Something asynchronous code is going on to those callback queues, and synchronous code is being going on to the call stack, right? So we saw that behavior. These questions are being asked into the interviews. So you should know, even when we set timeout to be zero, that was instant. But still then that particular code ran after कि पूरा जब script ran हो गया, after that that set timeout thing ran. Why? Because that was asynchronous code, and since our call stack was not emptied, the all the line that was synchronous, that ran fast, and call stack was emptied. After that our asynchronous code ran. Also, we don't did it looks for promises and looks for callbacks, right? So I think okay, that was a lot to cover, I guess. We tried to like sum it up. Okay, so how was this web dev internet fundamental session? Right after that, there is going to be session about the React. So you are going to work with React. So since I like taught you the normal JavaScript thing like HTML and all, so onto this React thing, you are going to also see this JavaScript into the picture. So try to like understand what is going to happen there. Is the code synchronous, asynchronous? What are the things that is going to happen there? Also, we are going to have doubt session. You can ask me there. Cool. Great. Yeah, the thing is we could not like keep everything here, but we tried to like sum it up. But yeah, on to upcoming sessions, on this crackDSA channel, we could have some live streams about some topics, right? So that was it, like that is the last session I'm having about this web dev. After that, Priyanshi is going to join you onto the React project. Till then, if you do have any doubt, just connect to me on LinkedIn. And also, if you guys didn't like the stream, just do like it. And with that, let's just wrap up. Uh, it was really good to it was really good to interact with you guys. You guys are amazing again. Yeah, and pretty good learners. Yeah, so it's great. Cool then. We'll see you. Uh, yeah, so cool. Okay, I think we can wrap up now. Yeah. So cool, great. Yep, guys. So whatever we learned so far, also we are going to put the resource onto the site. So afterwards, like so you can just practice things and all. Yeah. So with that, we try to sum it up things. Also, you should see these things what we discuss here, right? Uh, to stay consistent, and that's it. I think the today's session is pretty long. Uh, so let's just wrap it up here. Bye, guys. Then, cool. Bye.